You are driving home on a Tuesday night. Nothing special. The kids are waiting. Dinner's getting cold. Then you see it in your rearview mirror. Red and blue lights, strobing hard, coming up fast. Your stomach drops. Your mind starts spinning. Did I speed? Did I run that light? What do I say? And in that exact moment of panic, most people make a decision that turns a 2-minute ticket stop into a 20-minute interrogation. Here's what the case law reveals. The average traffic stop lasts 7 to 12 minutes. But when drivers panic and say the wrong things, that number climbs fast. And every extra minute is another opportunity for an officer to turn a broken taillight into a full criminal investigation. I've analyzed hundreds of traffic stop cases, and the difference between a short, boring stop and a life-altering one almost always comes down to just a few spoken sentences. After studying body cam transcripts and digging through the case law from Pennsylvania versus Mims to Rodriguez versus United States, I identified a clear pattern. Drivers who kept stops short and legally protected all used variations of the same 4 lines. Not aggressive demands, not magic words. 4 calm, specific, legally grounded sentences. I'm going to give you all 4 today. The exact words, the exact timing, and exactly why each one works under the law. This is educational content to help you understand your rights. For specific legal advice, always consult an attorney in your state. Line number 1. No, officer. Why did you stop me? Picture this. The officer walks up, leans on your window frame, and says the words that catch almost every driver off guard. Do you know why I pulled you over? Most people answer, I think I was going a little fast. I may have rolled that stop sign. I was checking my phone. Every one of those answers just handed the officer a confession before he even ran your plates. Here's the legal reality you need to understand. That question is not small talk. It is an investigative technique. Officers are trained to ask it because the psychological pressure of the moment causes most drivers to fill the silence with an admission. California recognized this so clearly that in 2023 it banned officers from asking that question under AB 2773, calling it a pretext trap. The other 49 states still allow it, which means you need to know how to answer it. The wrong way. Officer says, do you know why I pulled you over? Driver responds, yeah, I think I was maybe doing 50 in a 40. I'm sorry, I'm running late. That driver just admitted to speeding, confirmed distraction, and apologized. The body cam captured all of it. The stop got longer, not shorter. The right way. Officer says, do you know why I pulled you over? Driver calm, hands on wheel. No, officer. Why did you stop me? 4 words back to him. That's it. Here's why it works on 3 legal levels simultaneously. First, it's completely honest. You are not required to guess or confess. Salinas versus Texas from 2013 confirmed that Fifth Amendment protections require express invocation, and redirecting with a question signals your awareness without triggering the ambiguous silence problem the Supreme Court identified in that case. Second, it forces the officer to commit to a stated reason on camera. Delaware versus Prowse established that officers cannot stop vehicles randomly. They need a specific, articulable reason. Making the officer state that reason out loud on his body cam creates the clearest possible record for any future court review. Third, it signals legal awareness. Officers process thousands of stops. The ones where a driver calmly and politely asks why they were stopped are the ones where experienced officers recognize they're dealing with someone who knows the law. The stop stays professional. Your tone matters as much as your words here. Calm, not hostile, not sarcastic. Hands on the wheel, eyes forward. Cooperation does not mean confession. The body cam is rolling from the moment those lights came on. Line 1 puts you in control of what that recording captures. The bottom line on line 1, never answer a question with an answer that gives more information than required. No, officer. Why did you stop me? 4 words. That is your first line. You just protected yourself against accidentally confessing to the stop reason. That's a Fifth Amendment protection. But the moment the officer asks for your documents, a completely separate legal vulnerability opens up. A Fourth Amendment trap that courts have addressed repeatedly in case law. Line 2 is the one that closes that gap before it can even form. Line number 2. My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it now. This might surprise you. It sounds like courtesy. But under the law, this sentence directly neutralizes one of the most dangerous tools an officer has at a traffic stop: the doctrine of furtive movements. Here's the framework. Courts have held that furtive movements can justify escalated stops, extended detentions, and pat-down searches. The Indiana Court of Appeals defined furtive movements in BR versus State as conduct that connotes evasion or concealment. Officers apply this label broadly, reaching toward a console, glancing at the glove box, shifting in your seat. In Canonge versus State in 2023, a court upheld an extended detention partly because the driver handed over his license before being asked, calling it unusual behavior. Every unnarrated movement is a potential hook. The wrong way, officer says, "License, registration, and insurance, please." The driver immediately reaches across to the glove box without a word, shuffles around, then reaches toward his back pocket. The body cam captures all of it. The officer notes in his report, "Subject made furtive movements consistent with concealment. The driver did nothing wrong, but the hook is now set." The right way sounds like this. Officer: license, registration, and insurance, please. Driver, hands still on the wheel. Yes, officer. My license is in my wallet, in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it now. Slow, deliberate reach. My registration is in the glove box. I'm going to open it now. Each movement narrated before it happens. The body cam shows exactly what the driver said and exactly what they did. There is no room for a furtive movements interpretation because every movement was pre-announced. This also shows cooperation without subordination. You are complying with a lawful document request, which is required in every state, while simultaneously creating a clean record. Providing your name when asked is also required in the 24 stop and identify states like Texas, Nevada, and Indiana. But providing documents and providing answers to open-ended questions are legally different things. Hand over your documents, narrate while doing it, then put your hands back on the wheel and stay calm. After you hand over your documents, the officer runs your information. He comes back and the questions start. Anything going on tonight? Where are you headed? You are not required to answer any of those. Not one. That's what line 3 handles. But line 2 is what gets you to line 3 cleanly, without giving the officer justification to escalate before you even get there. Be respectful, not talkative. Cooperation does not mean conversation. Your tone matters. A relaxed, narrated document handoff looks like someone with nothing to hide. That is exactly the signal you want to send. The bottom line on line 2. Narrate every physical movement before you make it. My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it now. That is how you hand over documents without handing over ammunition. That is your second line. You've handled the opening. No confession. Documents produced cleanly. But here's the procedural gap that catches people. Document production is the end of your legal obligations at a traffic stop. Everything that follows, the questions about destination, the casual small talk, is a voluntary fishing expedition. Rodriguez versus United States made clear that officers cannot extend a stop beyond its original mission absent reasonable suspicion. But you can help build that reasonable suspicion yourself by voluntarily answering questions you had no legal duty to answer. Line 3 is the one that closes that door. Line number 3, I plead the fifth. 3 words. 3 of the most legally powerful words in the English language. And most people never say them during a traffic stop, even when they have every right to. The legal reality that Salinas versus Texas locked in for us, staying silent is not enough. The Supreme Court ruled in 2013 that simply going quiet when an officer asks where you're coming from can be used against you in court. The court called silence insolubly ambiguous. It could mean you're invoking your rights, or thinking of a lie, or embarrassed, or protecting someone else. The ruling was clear. You must expressly invoke the privilege. 3 words do it cleanly and on the record. I plead the fifth. Here's the fishing expedition in action. You've handed over your documents. The officer comes back. He hasn't cited you yet. He leans on your window. Busy night? The wrong response. Yeah, just coming back from a friend's. We were watching the game. That response just told him where you were, what you were doing, and opened the door to, oh yeah? Did you guys have anything to drink? You are now in the investigation that was never announced as an investigation. The right response? I plead the fifth. Calm, respectful, hands on the wheel. Officer, most people have nothing to hide. What's going on tonight? Right response. I understand, officer. I plead the fifth. Officer, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Right response. I'm not trying to be difficult. I plead the fifth. Say it 3 times if necessary. The phrase creates a legal record that your silence is not guilt. It is a constitutionally protected choice, expressly invoked, captured on camera. Every repetition strengthens the record. Here's the officer psychology. When drivers answer casual questions, officers listen for inconsistencies, slurred speech, and nervous rambling. Officers aren't asking where you've been because they're curious. They are building a conversational record for the prosecutor to evaluate for probable cause. Answering traffic stop small talk is building the case against yourself voluntarily. State-specific note. In stop and identify states, you may be required to state your name. I plead the fifth applies to everything beyond your name in those jurisdictions. Any question beyond license, registration, and insurance is a voluntary encounter. Stay respectful. The body cam records tone as well as text. I plead the fifth, said calmly, is a protected legal invocation. The same words said with contempt create a confrontation. Be calm. Be firm. Cooperation does not mean conversation. The bottom line on line 3, when the questions shift from documents to destination, from paperwork to personal activity, say these 3 words clearly. I plead the fifth. Say them out loud, on camera, as many times as it takes. That is your 3rd line. 3 lines in, no confession. Clean document handoff. Fishing expedition shut down, but there is one final pivot point where the stop can still unravel. And it comes right when you think it's over. Research published by the Harvard Scholars Strategy Network found that over 90% of drivers say yes when police ask to search their vehicle. Not because they wanted to, because the authority of the moment makes refusal feel like accusation. Line 4 is what changes that equation. Line number 4, I do not consent to any searches. 8 words. And they matter because of Schneckloth versus Bustamante, a Supreme Court case that established officers are not required to tell you that you have the right to refuse a consent search. Unlike Miranda, there is no warning required. They ask. If you say yes, the search is lawful. If you say, I do not consent to any searches. You have invoked your Fourth Amendment protection explicitly, on camera, on the record. Here's the documented mind trick officers use. It is a recognized interrogation technique. They ask, "Anything illegal in the car?" If you say no, they follow with, "Well, then you wouldn't mind if I took a quick look, right?" That question is engineered to make refusal sound like guilt. If you say yes, you consented. If you say, "I mean sure," you consented. If you hedge at all, the body cam may have captured consent. The only phrase that creates zero ambiguity is, "I do not consent to any searches." No hedging, no explaining, no apologizing. 8 words. Wrong response. "Well, I don't have anything, but I'm kind of in a hurry, so..." The officer heard the first half of that as partial consent. A search follows. Right response. "I do not consent to any searches." Officer: "Why not? You got something to hide?" Right response. "I do not consent to any searches." Officer: "If you're clean, just let me take a quick look. It'll take 2 minutes." Right response. "I do not consent to any searches." To consent to a search does not give rise to a search. To consent to a search does not give rise to reasonable suspicion or probable cause. You cannot be legally penalized for exercising your Fourth Amendment rights. State-specific note: Colorado requires officers to inform you of your right to refuse a consent search. Most states do not. If a drug dog has already alerted, the legal calculus changes. Probable cause from a dog alert can authorize a search regardless of consent, but in a standard stop, before any alert, before any plain view discovery. 8 words are your shield. And if the officer says he's calling a K-9 unit, add this: "Officer, am I free to leave?" Under Rodriguez versus United States, police cannot extend a traffic stop beyond its original mission without reasonable suspicion. If you've used your 4 lines and haven't provided that suspicion voluntarily, the clock is on them, not on you. "Am I free to leave?" puts the legal burden back where it belongs. Stay calm. Keep your hands visible. Do not argue at roadside. The remedy for rights violations is the courtroom, not the curb. Use your 4 lines and let the lawyers handle the rest. The bottom line on line 4: I do not consent to any searches. 8 words on camera every time you're asked. That is your 4th and final line. Here's the complete 4-line framework. Print it. Put it in your glove box. Say it out loud in your car until it's automatic. When those lights come on, you will default to what you have rehearsed. Line 1. "No, officer. Why did you stop me?" Never answer the first question with a confession. 4 words turn it back on them and force the reason onto the record. Line 2. "My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it now." Narrate every movement before you make it. Eliminate the furtive movements argument before it's written in any report. Line 3. "I plead the 5th. Salinas versus Texas requires you to say it out loud, so say it out loud. 3 words shut down the fishing expedition cleanly and constitutionally every single time. Line 4. "I do not consent to any searches." 8 words, no hedging, no explaining. Schneckloth gave officers permission not to warn you of this right. These 8 words activate it anyway. And if the stop drags on after all 4 lines, "Officer, am I free to leave?" That question, grounded in Rodriguez, starts the constitutional clock. Remember, this is educational content only, not legal advice. Laws vary by state, and your specific circumstances may change the analysis. Always consult with a qualified attorney for your situation. You just learned one foundational set of constitutional protections, but there are other legal frameworks that apply at different stages of a police encounter, and most people invoke them at the wrong moment or in the wrong order. I break down those frameworks in the next video. It is showing on screen right now. Watch it before you need it. If this helped you today, like the video and subscribe. Hit the bell so the next lesson finds you before you need it in the real world. And share this with someone who should know these 4 lines before they ever see those lights in their mirror. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it? I want to see how far this is reaching. Know your rights, use them calmly, stay safe. Because an informed driver is a protected driver. And the Constitution works best when you know how to use it.